What if I told you that the same white powder you use to freshen your fridge or scrub your sink could quietly restore the one thing most men stop talking about after 60? Your blood flow, your desire, your confidence. No expensive pills, no awkward appointments, just something sitting quietly in your kitchen cabinet, waiting to be rediscovered. Now, that might sound ridiculous at first, but for thousands of men, some of them healthy, active, and deeply in love, something changed. And it wasn't their testosterone or their heart, it was their pH. See, there's a silent shift happening in your body as you age, one that doctors rarely mention and even fewer test for. It tightens your arteries, blocks your oxygen, dulls your sensitivity, and slowly robs you of the strength and spark that once defined you as a man. And the craziest part? It's totally fixable. Not with another prescription, but with something most people throw away without a second thought. Baking soda. I'm serious. I've spent over 30 years listening to men just like you, men who are tired of the silence, the shame, and the slow fade of intimacy. And what I've learned is this: the best medicine doesn't always come in a bottle. Sometimes the answer is simple, natural, and already in your hands. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the 10 surprising ways baking soda, when used correctly, can help you reclaim your strength, your flow, and your fire. And if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered where that version of you went, the one who felt alive, connected, and fully capable, then this message is for you. Because the truth is, you're not broken. You're just out of balance. And balance can be restored. If that message speaks to you, type "I'm ready" in the comments below. And if you believe more men need to hear this, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video. It might be exactly what someone you care about needs to see today.
Let me tell you about a man named Harold. He was 69 years old, recently retired, and had just started traveling with his wife again. On the outside, things looked good. No major health issues, no obvious warning signs. But when he sat down across from me in my office, there was a weight in his eyes, a heaviness he didn't know how to put into words. After a long pause, he finally leaned forward and said, "Doc, I just don't feel like a man anymore." It wasn't that he didn't love his wife. It wasn't that he didn't want to be close. It was that his body simply didn't respond. We ran all the usual tests, blood pressure, cholesterol, testosterone, and everything came back normal. But something felt off. So I looked deeper, and there it was. His blood pH was off balance, slightly acidic. Nothing dramatic, but enough to tighten his blood vessels just enough to matter. Now, most men have never been told this, but as we age, our internal chemistry changes. Slowly, quietly, the body drifts toward acidity. And when it does, the arteries that used to open freely during moments of arousal begin to clamp down. Not with pain, not with warning, but with silence. Imagine trying to water your garden with a hose that's been pinched shut. That's what your blood vessels feel like when your pH is too low. And here's where baking soda comes in, not as a cure-all, but as a quiet ally. Just half a teaspoon of baking soda mixed into a glass of water on an empty stomach acts as a gentle alkalizer. It helps restore the natural balance your blood needs to flow freely, easily, without resistance. That's what Harold started doing. Nothing extreme, no drastic changes, just a small morning ritual. Baking soda with warm lemon water before breakfast. And 3 weeks later, he walked into my office different, lighter, smiling. He said, "Something's changed. I can't explain it, but I feel awake again." And my wife noticed too. What he was describing wasn't just improved circulation. It was vitality returning, a reconnection between mind and body, a silent shift from within. And here's the lesson. Sometimes it's not your testosterone, not your age, and not your desire that's the problem. It's your chemistry, your internal environment. And when that environment is off, everything else struggles. But when it's right, when your blood flows like it's supposed to, you don't have to force anything. Your body just knows what to do. That's the forgotten pH secret. And for many men, it's the first step towards waking everything else back up. But what if I told you, even if your pH is balanced, there's still one invisible force silently choking your performance from the inside out? It doesn't show up on standard blood work, it doesn't make a scene, but it steals your energy, your sensation, and your confidence day by day, year after year. Let's talk about it in the next section, because once you understand how inflammation works, everything begins to make sense.
Let me introduce you to Samuel. He was 71 years old, a former Navy officer, still sharp as ever. When he walked into my office, he carried himself with pride, a deep voice, steady hands, a firm handshake. But when we got to the real reason for his visit, everything shifted. He paused, looked down for a second, then said softly, "Doctor, it's like my body is always working against me. Even when I want to feel close to my wife, I just don't feel capable anymore." His words were heavy with frustration, and I could tell this wasn't about embarrassment. It was about confusion. Something inside him felt stuck. Now, his labs looked decent. He wasn't diabetic. His testosterone wasn't alarmingly low. His cholesterol was managed. But one marker stood out: elevated CRP, a clear sign of chronic, low-grade inflammation. And that was the clue. See, most men think their performance issues come from testosterone, or aging, or stress. But more often than not, the real culprit is inflammation. I call it the silent thief, because that's exactly what it does. It steals your sensitivity, your energy, your confidence, slowly, quietly, without ever announcing itself. Here's what happens under the surface. Your blood vessels are lined with a special tissue called the endothelium. That's where nitric oxide is produced, the molecule that tells your penis to relax and fill with blood when arousal begins. But when inflammation sets in, that lining becomes stiff, damaged, less responsive. It's like trying to turn on a light switch when the wires behind the wall are frayed. Your mind might feel desire, but your body can't respond. That's where baking soda enters the story again. This time, not for pH, but for inflammation. Multiple studies have shown that sodium bicarbonate can trigger anti-inflammatory pathways in the spleen and kidneys. It helps calm the immune system's overreaction, especially the one targeting your vascular system. And when inflammation settles down, blood starts to move again. Nitric oxide flows. Your body becomes responsive, not forced, but natural. That's what happened with Samuel. We started simple. Half a teaspoon of baking soda and water each morning, followed by a gentle 15-minute walk. Within weeks, his energy returned. He even reported more frequent morning erections. But what touched me most was how he described it. He said, "Doc, it feels like something inside me unclogged." And I knew exactly what he meant. It wasn't just a physical change, it was a release, a return to flow, to ease, to the feeling of being alive in his own body again. Here's the takeaway. Inflammation doesn't yell, it whispers. But those whispers can drown out everything you love about being a man, if you're not paying attention. And when you remove that hidden tension, when you give your body the space to relax and circulate again, everything else begins to return. But now you might be wondering, what's the actual on switch for all of this? Because even when your inflammation is down and your vessels are relaxed, your body still needs a signal, a spark. That signal is nitric oxide. And in the next part, I'll show you how baking soda helps your body create more of it naturally. Because without nitric oxide, desire means nothing. Let's explore why this tiny molecule may be the very thing your body has been missing. I'll never forget Thomas.
He was 66, still working part-time at a local hardware store, kept himself active, walked every morning, ate relatively clean. He wasn't overweight, he wasn't depressed, his testosterone wasn't terrible. From the outside, he seemed to be doing everything right. But during our conversation, he said something that stuck with me. "Doc," he said, "I still have the desire. I still want to be with my wife, but it's like there's no signal, like the switch just doesn't flip anymore." That's exactly what a nitric oxide deficiency feels like. See, nitric oxide isn't a hormone, it's not a stimulant, it's a messenger, a microscopic spark that tells your blood vessels, "Open the gate now." It signals your arteries to relax, it tells the smooth muscles in your penis to release tension and allow blood to rush in. It is quite literally the green light for intimacy. And without it, nothing happens. Mentally, you might feel desire. Emotionally, you're connected. But physically, it's like the circuit is broken. Now, here's where most men get frustrated. They think it's low libido or stress or even performance anxiety. And sure, those things play a role. But in many cases, the root cause is much simpler. Your body just isn't making enough nitric oxide anymore. Why? Because with age, acidity rises, inflammation builds, and under those conditions, nitric oxide can't survive. It breaks down faster than your body can produce it. It's like trying to keep a fire going in a rainstorm. But here's the beautiful part. This is where baking soda can help in a way most men never expect. Baking soda doesn't contain nitric oxide, but it helps preserve it. It creates the internal environment your body needs to generate nitric oxide naturally and keep it stable. By gently alkalizing your blood, reducing oxidative stress, and protecting the lining of your blood vessels, baking soda helps keep the nitric oxide signal strong and clear. There's even research showing that athletes who supplemented with sodium bicarbonate saw improved stamina and vascular performance, largely because their bodies could better utilize oxygen and nitric oxide during physical stress. And what helps in endurance? Helps in the bedroom too. Both rely on fast, expansive blood flow. Both require relaxed, responsive vessels. Both demand a switch that flips when the moment is right. That's what we focused on with Thomas. Each morning, he started with a simple mix, warm lemon water and the small pinch of baking soda. We paired it with deep nasal breathing exercises to support nitric oxide release from the sinuses. 3 weeks later, he looked at me with a grin. "Doc," he said, "I'm waking up with something I haven't seen in years. And it's not forced. It's just happening again." And that's the key. Because real healing isn't about chasing performance. It's about restoring your body's ability to respond, naturally, effortlessly, in its own timing. Here's the truth. Nitric oxide is the spark, but a spark is only as useful as the fuel it ignites. And that fuel is oxygen. Even if your blood vessels are open, if oxygen can't get where it needs to go, the whole system slows down, weakens, fizzles out. So in the next part, we're going to look at something most men overlook completely: the role of oxygen in strong, lasting erections, and how baking soda supports that too. Because desire isn't enough. Even nitric oxide isn't enough. Your body needs to breathe life into the moment, and oxygen is what makes that possible. Let's talk about how to unlock that in part 4.
I want to tell you about Richard. He was 72, a retired fire chief, strong, steady, and proud. A man used to solving problems, leading others, being the guy everyone counted on. But when he came into my office, his words didn't sound like a fire chief. He said, "Doc, I feel like I'm running out of fuel down there. Like my body's there, but it's heavy, dull. Like the engine's still on, but not getting any spark." We had already ruled out the usual suspects: testosterone, blood pressure, diabetes. Everything looked decent. But one number caught my eye. His oxygen saturation was low. Not dangerously low, but just enough to explain why his energy was fading, and why, even when arousal kicked in, his body couldn't respond with strength or fullness. And that's when we talked about something most men never think about when it comes to intimacy: oxygen. See, it's not enough for blood to reach your penis. That blood has to carry oxygen, because without it, your tissue can't expand, can't hold, and certainly can't sustain an erection. It's like trying to inflate a balloon with stale air. It might puff up for a moment, but it deflates quickly. There's no vitality in it. This is where hemoglobin becomes crucial. Hemoglobin is the protein inside your red blood cells that transports oxygen throughout your body. But here's what most men don't realize. As we age, and especially when acidity or inflammation is present, hemoglobin struggles to release oxygen where it's needed most. That's where baking soda quietly makes a difference. By alkalizing the blood, baking soda improves what's called the Bohr effect, a natural process that helps hemoglobin release oxygen more efficiently in tissues that need it. In simpler terms, when your blood is more balanced, your oxygen gets where it needs to go faster, cleaner, stronger. That's what we worked on with Richard. A simple habit: half a teaspoon of baking soda in warm water taken slowly before breakfast. Nothing extreme, no supplements, no prescriptions. And after just a few weeks, he came back with a quiet confidence. He leaned in and said, "It feels warmer now, like things are actually flowing again, like they're supposed to." That warmth he described, that's real. That's oxygen-rich blood flowing freely, awakening tissue, increasing sensation, and restoring that spark so many men thought was lost forever. And here's the deeper truth. When your body gets the oxygen it needs, everything starts to come alive again. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. Because you're no longer dragging yourself through the moment. You're present, capable, connected. But even then, oxygen is only part of the equation. Your body still has to use that oxygen. It has to convert it into power, into endurance, into the fuel that helps your erection not only begin, but last. That next step happens inside your cells, specifically inside your mitochondria, the tiny power plants responsible for turning oxygen into energy. And when those mitochondria slow down, so does everything else. So in the next part, we're going to dive deeper into the smooth muscle tissue that holds your erection in place and how baking soda quietly gives it the energy it needs to finish what nitric oxide and oxygen started. Let's talk about the power hidden inside your cells and how to bring it back online.
Let me tell you about Gerald. He was 68, a retired mechanic who had spent most of his life fixing engines, tuning systems, bringing broken things back to life. But when it came to his own body, he felt like something had shut down. He sat across from me, looked down at his hands, and said, "It's not just that I can't get hard like before. It's like the whole system shuts off halfway through. I feel like I just run out of gas." That sentence stayed with me because Gerald, in his own way, had hit on something most men, and even most doctors, completely overlook. We often talk about blood flow, we talk about hormones, but we don't talk enough about energy. And not the kind you get from coffee or a nap. I'm talking about cellular energy, the kind your body makes inside its cells. And that brings us to the real power players, mitochondria. These tiny structures live inside your cells, especially inside the smooth muscle cells in your penis. And they have one job: turn oxygen and nutrients into usable energy. This energy isn't just for arousal. It's what allows your penis to hold blood, trap it, and maintain a firm erection through intimacy. Think of it like the hydraulic system in a car. If the pressure drops, the whole system collapses. Now, here's the problem. As you age, your mitochondria slow down, especially if your body is inflamed or too acidic. And when those power plants start sputtering, the muscle can't hold the blood anymore, even if the flow is good, even if the desire is there. That's exactly what was happening with Gerald. His mitochondria were tired, and that engine shutting off halfway through feeling, that was his smooth muscle running out of fuel. So we made a change. 3 times a week, he started a morning ritual, baking soda in warm water, followed by some gentle stretches and deep breathing to get the oxygen moving. Nothing extreme, just a small shift in how he supported his inner systems. About a month later, he came back, leaned in, and said, with a quiet smile, "Doc, it feels like the engine's turning over again. Not perfect, but alive." And that's the power of mitochondrial renewal. It doesn't come with fireworks, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's steady, it's real, and it's deeply energizing. Here's the truth most men never hear. Your erection is not just a function of blood and desire, it's a reflection of your cellular health. If your mitochondria are weak, your performance will be too. And that's why baking soda matters. By reducing lactic acid buildup and restoring a more alkaline environment, it helps your mitochondria breathe easier, work better, and power the muscles that hold everything in place. So if you've ever felt like your body starts strong but fades fast, it's not weakness, it's energy loss at the cellular level, and it can be reversed. But we're not done yet. Because even if you restore blood flow, oxygen, and cellular energy, there's another layer to performance that many men overlook. It's not about what your body produces, it's about how well your body responds to it. And that brings us to testosterone. Not just how much you have, but whether your cells are actually listening to it. In the next part, we'll explore how baking soda quietly boosts testosterone receptor sensitivity and why that may be the missing piece for so many men who feel flat, even with normal hormone levels. Let's talk about how to help your body hear the signal again.
Martin was 64 when he came to see me. A retired police officer, strong frame, sharp eyes. You could tell. This was a man who had been through life and stood tall through it all. But something in his energy felt different. He sat down across from me and said, "Doc, they told me my testosterone looks fine, so why do I still feel flat, like I'm walking through life in low gear?" I nodded, because I've heard that story more times than I can count. And the answer isn't what most people think. See, when men hit their 60s, it's common to blame everything on low testosterone. And sometimes, sure, that's part of the picture. But for Martin and for many others, the hormone wasn't the problem. It was how his body was responding to it. You can have normal or even high levels of testosterone floating through your bloodstream. But if your cells aren't picking up the signal, it's like yelling through a wall. The message is there, but it's not getting through. That all comes down to something called receptor sensitivity. Think of testosterone as a key, but that key is useless if the lock is rusted, stuck, or too inflamed to turn. That lock is your hormone receptor. And when it's dulled by years of chronic inflammation or internal acidity, your body stops responding even if the hormone is present. Martin's tests confirmed it. His testosterone levels were okay, but his lifestyle, his stress levels, and especially the inflammation markers in his blood told a different story. So we started with something small, half a teaspoon of baking soda in water, a few mornings a week. Alongside that, we added light resistance training, nothing intense, just enough to signal the body, hey, it's time to respond again. 6 weeks later, Martin came back with a calm but unmistakable fire in his voice. He said, "My drive is coming back, not just in the bedroom, but in life. It's like something switched back on." That switch wasn't a magic pill. It wasn't more testosterone. It was his body finally listening again. And that's the quiet power of baking soda. It doesn't flood your system, it clears the noise. By reducing acidity and inflammation, it creates an environment where your hormone receptors can breathe again, function again, respond again. Because having testosterone is only half the battle. The real victory is in helping your body use it. Now, that spark of energy, of drive, isn't just about hormones either. There's something else most men forget: the health of your internal organs, especially your liver and kidneys. These two silent workers filter your blood, process your hormones, and eliminate toxins that can quietly weigh you down. And if they're sluggish, everything from energy to performance suffers. So, in the next part, we're going to explore how baking soda supports your detox system, gently, naturally, and in a way that helps bring your whole body back into rhythm. Because sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come from adding more, it comes from clearing what's been holding you back. Let's talk about that in part 7.
Now, I want to talk about something most men never expect to hear in a conversation about intimacy: your nervous system. You see, we've talked a lot about blood flow, hormones, oxygen, even mitochondria. But there's one system, one invisible force, that can override all of it in a split second. And that's the part of your body that controls safety, tension, and survival: your autonomic nervous system. Let me explain with a story. Tom was 70 years old, retired military, still stood like a soldier, shoulders back, chin up, voice firm. But when we sat down to talk and I asked him about intimacy, something shifted in his tone. He hesitated, then said quietly, "I still love my wife. I still want her. But every time we get close, I freeze. My mind wants it, but my body panics." And that right there is what many men experience but rarely talk about. See, when your body is constantly under stress, physical, emotional, or even just subtle background anxiety, it gets stuck in fight or flight mode. That's the sympathetic branch of your nervous system. It's designed to protect you from threats. And during stress, one of the first things it does is shut down blood flow to the genitals. Not because you're broken, but because your body thinks it's in danger. It's survival over intimacy, every time. Now, here's the good news. You can't talk your way out of a nervous system stuck in high alert, but you can support it, calm it, reset it. And that's where baking soda plays a surprisingly powerful role. Recent research shows that when baking soda is consumed in small, gentle doses, it helps reduce systemic inflammation. Not just in the muscles, but in the spleen and kidneys, two organs that send chemical stress signals to the brain. By neutralizing acid and lowering that inflammatory load, baking soda helps your parasympathetic system, the rest and relax side, come back online. And when that happens, your body starts to feel safe again, open, receptive, able to connect not just mentally, but physically. That's what we did with Tom. I taught him simple breathing exercises, grounding techniques, and he started using baking soda just a few times a week in the morning. Within weeks, he came back with tears in his eyes, not from sadness, but relief. He said, "Doc, I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like my body finally trusts again. I don't freeze anymore. I'm present. I'm there." And that's what happens when your nervous system stops seeing connection as a threat and starts feeling it as a gift again. Because sometimes it's not about performance, it's about permission. Permission to relax, to be vulnerable, to feel. And when that permission is granted, everything else comes alive again. But now you might be wondering, how do I tie all of this together? The blood flow, the oxygen, the nitric oxide, the hormones, the nervous system. What's the one thing I can do tomorrow morning that touches all of it? Well, in the final part of this video, I'm going to show you a simple morning ritual. One glass, one habit, that combines baking soda with a common kitchen ingredient and unlocks surprising synergy across your entire body. Let's bring it all together in part 8. By now, we've talked about a lot. Blood flow, pH balance, inflammation, oxygen, mitochondria, hormones, even your nervous system. And maybe you're wondering, how do I bring all of this together? Is there one simple habit that can touch every layer we've discussed without being overwhelming, complicated, or expensive? The answer is yes. And it starts with a glass of water. Let me tell you about Barry. Barry was 74, a widower for nearly 5 years. He told me he hadn't even considered intimacy since his wife passed, until recently, when someone new came into his life. But when he tried to get close, physically, his body just didn't respond. "It's like I'm rusted shut," he said. "Like the parts are there, but they haven't moved in years." We talked through everything: circulation, diet, stress. He had already made some good changes, but something still felt stuck. So I suggested something deceptively simple. Each morning, before food, he would sip a warm glass of water with a 1/4 to a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a squeeze of fresh lemon juice, or a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar if he preferred, and around 8 ounces of warm water. That's it. No pills, no prescriptions. Just a gentle ritual to support digestion, rebalance pH, calm the nervous system, and help the body wake up on a cellular level. Within a month, Barry came back beaming, and I'll never forget what he said. "I didn't expect much, but Doc, I feel lighter, more alive, and yeah, I'm responding again, if you know what I mean." He smiled, and I smiled back, because that's what happens when you support the whole system, not just one part. That one glass each morning wasn't a miracle cure, but it was a signal, a message to your body. It's safe now. Let's wake up. Now let me break down why this combination works so well. Lemon juice and apple cider vinegar are both acidic outside the body, but they have an alkalizing effect once digested. They support liver function, stimulate bile flow, and help regulate blood sugar. They also improve the absorption of minerals that support nerve and muscle function. When paired with baking soda, they create a gentle fizzing reaction that wakes up the digestive system and preps your internal chemistry for better balance. More importantly, they enhance the effect of baking soda, allowing it to reach the right tissues without overwhelming your kidneys or shifting your pH too quickly. It's a small act, but it speaks loudly to your body. And that's the key to everything we've talked about today: support, not force. Because real vitality doesn't come from tricks or hacks. It comes from restoring balance, from giving your body the right signals at the right time in the right environment. And that's what this morning ritual does. It helps you reconnect with your body. It gives you a rhythm, a beginning, a quiet moment where you say, "Today, I choose to care for myself." And that choice, repeated each day, creates momentum, health, confidence, and yes, better performance where it matters most. So if you're looking for a place to start there. Start simple. Start gentle. Start with 1 glass of warm water, a little baking soda, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Let that be the spark. Because when the whole system is supported, your blood, your hormones, your nerves, your energy, you don't have to chase performance. It returns naturally.